ask them right now while I'm finishing my dinner. Also, YouTube, whoever pops up, eating dinner. Alright, so let's begin. There's a quote at the top of the page. Welcome, nobody. Welcome, Sylvia Shi, to the live stream. Glad you both could join us tonight. Music is joy, an emotion which people cannot help experiencing at times. Unable to resist feelings joy, people must find an outlet through voice and movement. The same Chinese character is used for both music and joy. Welcome to the live stream, Face. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Which has inspired the philosopher Yongzhi to write the above quotation, pointing to the intrinsic relationship of the two in Chinese society. Intangible as music is, we now are able to share with our ancestors living 9,000 years ago the tune played by the flute, ingeniously carved out of the wing bone of the red-crowed crane. The flute surfaced in an archaeological excavation in Jinghong Village, Henan Province, in the 1980s. The very material of this flute recalls the Chinese legend about the immortal Xiang Shi, who would play the flute to attend cranes and phoenixes dancing around him, and his romances with the daughter of the Duke of Qing, who was drawn to him, being herself a flute fan. 7 finger holes had been evenly drilled. Welcome number 1, welcome Ying Ying Baby, and welcome Woodrow to the live stream. Glad to have you all tonight. We are on the 49th Wonder of China, Music and Beijing Opera. 7 finger holes had been evenly drilled along the bone, with a tiny one added to the 7th to adjust its tone from G sharp to A, achieving the whole octave. The flute, 20 centimeters long, and one of the 3 dozen found together with about 400 human burials. Sounds like the high-pitched human whistling and is still capable of producing multi-note music. Obviously, the community that created this oldest exact... Thank you for the donation. Glad to have it. The community that created the oldest exact instrument enjoyed a high level of civilization. Welcome to the live stream, Kevin, and everyone else who joined. Glad you all could join us tonight for Music and Beijing Opera, the 49th Wonder of China. Enjoyed a high level of civilization, as evidenced by the large variety of animal bones and possibly pictograms inscribed in the tortoise shells lying nearby. Further speculations about the flute include the significant function of music in rituals and government in its structured society. The fact Yu Ji, part of the Confucian classic Li Jing, advocates the tradition of education of people through music as a way of organizing the society to make communal life harmonious. Music and rites were devised by uh, ancient kings and sages to teach people to weigh likes and dislikes in the balance and lead them to what um, is proper. Music which would connect people with the spirits of their forefathers and rulers with the power of heaven was highly developed in ancient China as an essential component of the rituals at grassroots level, as well as in court, with music commentators sought blessing and protection, and rulers everted authority. As early as 1058 BC, the Zhao court had set up a government department in charge of collecting and monitoring music and songs performed in the different strata of society. Welcome, this is Linda. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Yes, music, which culminated in the anthology Qing Jing, allegedly compiled by Confucius. 305 lyrics survived in this book, including odes and hymns performed in court, as well as love songs and ballads of sorrow sung by ordinary folk. Alright. Yeah, Beijing Opera. We are looking at Beijing Opera tonight. The earliest work preserved in musical notation for the scholars favor instrument qi is Yola, composed by Qin Ming and hand-copied in the Tang Dynasty. The notation suggests how the strings are to be plucked, tapped or striked, and how the left-handed fingers should glide over the strings to produce subtle variations in timbre. It also suggests what poetic images are being expressed by combinations of touching the strings. For instance, a sliding sound may evoke an association to a flying seagull touching down, and a press by the left finger echoes in an empty canyon. While court music continued to perform its ceremonial and political functions in high echelons of society, and some instruments such as the qing and xiao were favored by scholars and reclusive philosophers, various string and percussion accompaniments flourished in popular musical theater in the late imperial China. Traditional Chinese theater is characterized by stylized role types, stage movements, panoramic gestures, costumes, and makeup, and by a unique combination of recitation, songs, dances, acrobats, and music. All these elements were epitomized in the culmination of this traditional Beijing opera, known as Jingzhu or Jingxi in Chinese. In 1790, during the Qing Emperor Huolong's 80th birthday celebration, troops from Anhui province thrilled the audience in the capital by staging inventory performances, incorporating the Erhong music mode and sensational acrobatic feats. Welcome, Arona, to the live stream. We are looking at music and Beijing opera. Glad you could join us tonight. The event marked the birth of the Beijing opera. From then on, a new variety of Chinese theater in competition with the currently dominant Kongqi. Jiangsu uh, gradually evolved into the nationally adored entertainment. However, it is full maturity would still take 60 more years when the Anho Theater successfully integrated the Hubei troops, who later came to Beijing with their distinctive Shipai music mode. Actually, the name Jingxi was established only after the popular Beijing tropes whirled on to the Shanghai stage in the late 19th century. Compared with the highbrow Kung Ke, the new musical theater was easier to understand and thus welcomed by a much wider audience. Its repertoire drew from the dramatic tales. Welcome, Mr. Luck, to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are looking at Beijing opera and music. Its repertoire drew from dramatic tales in popular history and vernacular literature, which, to the audience, were familiar, as were the fascinating because the plots exemplified titillating themes, such as love, betrayal, revenge, retribution, reward for loyal deeds, and triumph of justice. Welcome, Almira, to the live stream. You are joining us for music and Beijing opera. Let's see. Different plays often focused on different aspects of Chinese theatrical art, attracting varying types of audience. For example, the three-pronged crossroads belongs to the category of combat plays because of the two protagonists pretending ... to be in total darkness. Fight with the amazing acrobatic skills from beginning to end. On the other hand, the picking up of the jade bangle, the actress would use her skills to portray a maiden falling in love. The entire play consisting of her deliberating whether or not to accept her admirer's gift, classifying the performance as a virtuistic acting play. Welcome TCH and welcome Zhao Yu to the live stream. Glad you could join us tonight for the 49th Wonder of China, music and Beijing opera. Enjoy. Let's see. There are four types of role plays in Beijing opera: Xing, Dang, Jing, and Chao, with subcategories such as Lao Xing or Wu Dong. Each role is characterized by a set of distinct speaking. Welcome Smile and welcome Barad to the live stream. I'm glad you both could join us tonight for Beijing Opera, the 49th Wonder of China. Each role is characterized by a set distinct speaking, singing, and dancing or acrobatic skills. Informed audiences could identify particular roles by the pitch, volume, and nullification of their singing and speech. The instrumental music in Beijing opera consists of two sections, melodic and percussive. It is the percussion ensemble, a set of drums, gongs, and cymbals that is responsible for punctuating actors' movements and singing, and fundamentally integrates different elements of a play. Welcome Mao Si to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight for Beijing Opera. E.g., gestures, changes of scenes, change of actors, emotions, etc., into an organic whole. With 60-odd conventional rhythmic patterns, large and small percussive instruments could induce various atmospheres as required during a play, helping to form a vivid material picture of the appropriate simulation in the audience's mind and contemplating the minimalist setting. By the mid-19th century, Beijing Opera had eventually welcome Calmi. I'm glad you could join us in the live stream tonight. Love the four-leaf clovers. Popularity of Kung Che. With the accumulation of the sophisticated theater-goers and imperial patronage, it prospered in both the traditional Beijing and westernized Shanghai. Beijing Opera won international acclaim when its towering figure, Meng Lafeng, toured America and Russia in the 1930s. His roles as beautiful women moving dramatically on stage were legendary, and his performance influenced Bertolt Brecht and V.E. Meyerhold, among others, in the innovative work in Western theater. So, actually, before we move on to the next section is painting, where we have a couple pictures to look at before we move forward. And those sections include, right here is the performers of the Beijing Opera, trope on the opening night of the Carpet Fairy of the Green Pond in Beijing. Thank you, Smile. And welcome 123 to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We're finishing off Beijing Opera. Right here is actors playing the Emperor Ming Hong and his consort, Ying Conde, enjoying the flowers. There we are. On the next page, what we have here is detail of the Kongxi Emperor's 16th birthday celebration. Welcome AE3 and welcome Finn to the live stream. I'm glad you both could join us tonight. Late 18th century color, silk by an anonymous court artist. And our final picture for this section is a brick carving from a Song Jing Dynasty tomb portraying a female entertainer playing the flute. Thank you for the donation. I am glad to have it. We're now going to move forward to our next section in the live stream, which is painting. So, I'm going to put up our little Alright, there it is. So, I'm glad you could join us, AE3, to the live stream. We are on the 50th Wonder of China painting. Let us start with the quote at the top, and welcome 99.8 and everyone else. If a painter seeks breathlessness in his painting, physical likeness will naturally be present in his work. Zhang Yang Yao, Li Dongming Hong, G. 847. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Like its fellow brush art, calligraphy, the art of painting has a long and distinctive distinguished history in China. A characteristic of this history is remarkably continuous set of theoretic ideals over almost 2 millennia, chief among them the notion of Qinhuang Shengdong, that a painting will have virtuality when it achieves breath resonance with its subject, rather than by achieving the likeness using visual techniques to deceive the eye. By identifying a sequence of great artworks, however, and trusting those works to throw light on history, it is possible to see distinct phases of stylistic development which undermine that impression of continuity. The tools for painting are largely the same as for calligraphy. The media includes paper of various kinds, shuang being the finest, as well as silk and the more tightly woven, technical challenging satin, in addition to ink made from lamp black. Organic and mineral pigments are used, including ones like cinnabar for vermilion, malachite, and azurite for greens and blues, and gabag for yellows. Paintings are typically mounted in hand scrolls or albums for personal viewing. Welcome Norman Wong to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are on painting. When mounting wears out, the artwork is simply remounted. Probably the earliest surviving scroll painting ascribed to be the unknown artist, and thus a window on the origins of one of the world's greatest painting traditions, is the Omniscience of the Court Instructress hand scroll, now in the British Museum. Although is attributed to the founding father of figure painting, the Eastern Jin master Gong Kai-shi. One second. Just gotta get our page here. This is likely to have been painted a century or two after him, but in his lyrical, gossamer thread-like style, its 9 scenes illustrate tracts of a moralizing poem and how the emperor's wives and concubines should conduct themselves within by polymath. The statesman Zhao Hou, in 292, possibly after the ruler was poisoned by spurned empress, a time of dramatic cultural development, religious and intellectual exchange, this period of disunion is also noted for political rivalries and short-lived dynasties. The body language, bearing, and facial expressions of the beauties in the omniscience are minutely observed and elegantly finished in swirling outlines, which points to the artist's personal experience of life and one of these courts. It is almost possible to see, from the self-assured way the painter breathes new life into this rather stuffy, archaic subject, how the art of painting was born in China. The Omniscience is a remarkable survivor. Very few other scroll paintings remain from the Tang dynasty or before. Although we read about great masters who painted generic scenes, horses, and early landscapes. Some works survive from the Northern Song dynasty, the era of monumental landscape painting. Among them, the Shuang Dongning's Fisherman's Scroll, which portrays the archetype Horivisa of classical Chinese. Welcome, Sasa, to the live stream. We're on the 50th Wonder of China painting. I hope you enjoy. Plotted over successive movements of a hand scroll and unrolled from right to left, the emotive landscape invites the viewer to roam among the scenery. That is highly suggestive of mode and outlook. Tiny figures dwarfed by the grandeur of cliffs travel in the deeply cut ravines on the flowing waters or over plank bridges. At every turn, the landscape seems to reveal the majestic power of nature. The monumental landscapes of the Northern Song came under no uncertain terms to symbolize the figure of the emperor as the Son of Heaven, and the wider moral order in the Song polity. So, I actually do not speak Chinese myself, but I can read Chinese via on English script, and you're welcome, Eric. I'm glad you enjoy. Welcome, jockeys, to the live stream. We are on the 50th Wonder of China painting. We're on this paragraph that starts with changes in the 11th century. A wide range of explanations must account for why such links were in all severed during the 13th and 14th centuries. Welcome 12D to the live stream. Glad you could join us tonight. As painting took what might be called an inward turn in the 11th century, the unity of the feudal state was challenged by the rise of a new social class, the literati, or social officials, who championed China's great tradition of statecraft. Their intellectualists did not coincide with those of the Song monarchy. Although China was no longer politically unified after the Song lost the northern half of China to the Jurchen Jin dynasty in 1127 and suffered the humiliating capture of the Emperor Hongzong, once again the country became home to a rival Chinese and non-Chinese powers. A few paintings made under non-Chinese regions survive. The Southern Song stacked a claim, collaborated by later historians, to have retained the mandate of heaven, and for a time a refined Chinese courtly culture flourished, surviving in the form of an elegant, if brittle style of classical calligraphy, Hellenic nature poetry, and fan paintings. Welcome 795, I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are on the 50th Wonder of China painting. The reunification of China's by the great Mongol ruler Kublai Khan in the late 1270s, however, is precipitated a pivotal shift in Chinese painting history as artists led by Zhao Mengfang engaged in a comprehensive reform of the artistic canon combined with a fundamental redisciplining of painting in terms of the learned art of calligraphy. Such transformations broadly determined the subsequent literary tradition of painting, with when reached early maturity under the native Ming dynasty. In the art of the magistral Qin Zhao, a work of both calligraphy and painting, Knight Virgil exemplifies the development of the amateur lyric tradition, which vied critical with the art of court, academic, and professional painters. Recording Sheng Zhao's meditations through a wet but moonlit autumn night in 1492, the painting many to be read as a kind of manifesto of literary beliefs about art, its relation to nature, and its practice as self-cultivation. By the late 17th century, the insistence of literary critics on the distinctions between the art of lofty amateurs and vulgar professionals was wearing thin. The painting of lovable, eccentric Qin Hongshao, a failed scholar official, but a famous professional painter, is laced with the irony about his role and status. First, in late Ming times, and then early Qing society. Welcome, Lori. Love you. Glad you could join us tonight for the 50th Wonder of China painting. His acknowledged masterpiece, Lady Xuanwen, giving instruction on the classic 1638, is headed by a lengthy inscription about Confucian learning on the period of disunion, with only a literary man could have written and yet painted, is executed in a professional, collaborative style together with his studio assistants. Like Chen Hongshao, the Qing monk painter Badad Sharin was a leftover subject after the fall of the Ming and during the gradual establishment of the Manchu Qing dynasty. A minor prince of the Ming royal family, Bada. Welcome Danny Chang to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Sharin sought refuge in the Buddhist church after 1644. His paintings is noted in its stark, mysterious images of rocks, fish, and birds. He combined with the often opaque poetry, even. Welcome AB4 and welcome James to the live stream. We are on the art of painting, the 50th Wonder of China. Into old age, he dwelt on his faith as kind of immigrant in his own country. Baba Sharin's generation was probably the last to have practiced the art of painting before, with the growing power of European nations, knowledge of Western art became fairly widespread in China under non-Chinese Qing. Welcome Eldos to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are on the 50th Wonder of China painting. At first, Western painting was championed at the Manchu court as successive emperors from Kangxi and Yongzheng to Qianlong. So, how are you doing, Eldos? and welcome back, James. Let's see. Alright. Retained European men from learning. The Italian Jesuit master, Giuseppe Gostilian, who is known in Chinese as Lang Xingyang, and spent almost his entire life at court in the vain hope of converting the Manchus to Christianity. Yes, this is a book that I own. It's called The 70 Wonders of China, and it's written by Jonathan Fenby, or edited by him. So, welcome to the live stream. We are on the art of painting. Was the Qianlong Emperor's favorite court artist. A liking in part based on his early masterwork, 100 Horses. By the 1730s, Castilian had developed... yeah, I can have a lesson with you, James. Developed an extraordinary hybrid style, combining Chinese painting, media of brush and ink on paper, or silk with Western painting techniques, a vanishing point perspective, and chiaroscuro, or shading, and embodying the pragmatic, universalist worldview of the emperor he served. After the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911 and the establishment of the Republic, a period of modernization began. In the 1920s, so I am in America right now, specifically California. Many artists traveled to Europe to train in Western styles, including in oils, and to Japan, an obvious role model to China, where both Asian and European styles and techniques have been. Well, it's only 8:36 p.m., so the night's actually pretty young where I am. That's all I have to say about that. So, we're doing pretty good as far as the night goes. So no, you're thinking about the Midwest. The Midwest, it's 11:36. On the West Coast, it's 8:36. So, close, but no cigar. Taught since the Meiji Restoration of 1868, in spite of Japanese militaristic ambitions in China. Welcome, Sarah, to the live stream. Happy to see you here as well. And throughout Asia in the 1930s. Welcome to the live stream. This is the 50th Wonder of China, painting. This exchange is clear to see the work of the Chinese painters who studied in Japan. One such is Fu Baoshi, a traditionalist and master in the style known in China as national painting, illustrating a line of Chairman Mao's poetry. The Lanzhou rich in beauty, painted by him with Wang Shengyao for the Great Hall of the People in Beijing in 1959, clearly reworks similar Japanese imageries from the early 20th century. The huge painting is shown in situ between in the photograph taken on the occasion of the U.S. Richard Nixon's visit to China in 1972. Traditional oil painting contributes both to China among the diaspora, but it is the artists and showmen of the avant-garde who often capture headlines. Welcome Mary Zhao and welcome Xing Yu to the live stream. I'm glad you both could join us tonight. we are finishing up the last paragraph of painting. Let's see. Standing out from the crowd is the Fujian-born artist Cai Gao-Kuang, whose works with gunpowder, both on paper and as performance art, have garnered international critical acclaim. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to take a look at some pictures from the Chinese painting section. Right here is the Land So Rich in Beauty, painted by Fu Bangxi and Guang Shengyou in 1959. Right here. It's a nice, beautiful painting. The page previous, we have right here an anonymous court painting entitled The Kulong Emperor, dated in 1766. Welcome Chris F. to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. On the previous page, we've got right here a sheep, a goat, and a 3-line calligraphic inscription combined in one of the Yuan master Zhao Meifeng's finest works. And right up here is a scene of the emperor rebuffing the beauty who knew her own from the famous Admirations of the Court Instructress scroll attributed to Gu Kaji. Welcome E5B to the live stream. This is the ending of the section on painting, the 50th Wonder of China. I'm glad you could join us tonight. And at the very bottom, right here, is Fisherman's Scroll by Xiao Dongning, 1049 AD. Alright, and with that, we're going to move on to our next section, which is porcelain. If anyone has any questions, welcome back, Sarah. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Oh, wait. Nope, that's old. Nope. So, we're going to move on to porcelain, the 51st Wonder of China. I'm going to pull up the reading real quick. And nope, that's not it. One page too soon. Or one section too soon. Give me 1 second, guys. Wait a minute. Nope. And there we are. I got a couple extra close-ups early. So I'm going to read the quote at the top of the page before we move forward. You can read ahead if you like. The beautiful porcelain, which is a vivid and sparkling white, and of a beautiful ancestral blue, all comes from Jing Deng Jing, Pierre Francis Xavier de Entrecole, a letter from China dated 1712. Porcelain is one of the most successful products ever created in China. As a domestic ceramic, porcelain historically was used in China for the production of hard-wearing, mass-produced tablewares, specially commissioned imperial symmetrics and figural scripts. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. As export product, Chinese porcelain was an important trade item and a major source of government revenue from the 8th century onward. Porcelain can be said to have been invented in China when the Chinese started using local white clay for high-fired instead of low-fired. White symmetrics It is today so closely associated with China that the popular term for porcelain vessels as figurines in general is China. As a ceramic material, porcelain is admired for its pure white color, for its hardiness that resonates. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Like glass, when struck, and for its translucity, allowing light to pass through and illuminate the material. Before the advent of Chinese porcelain, this material was unknown in other cultures. But once encountered, it had a profound impact on world composition, including the development of a taste for hard, white ceramics, especially the blue and white porcelain, for which China came to be famous for. Porcelain was produced in China in the Sui period in forms that related to foreign silver vessels as drinking cups from the Sassan Persia. In the succeeding Tang dynasty, three main kingdoms were produced porcelain on a wider scale. Begun producing porcelain Gongxi in Henan province and Xing and Ding in Hebei province. These kingdoms made a wide range of waves in porcelain, including small first. Oh, wait a minute. Darn it. Wow. Alright. Small dishes, which were popular for export, as well as porcelain decorated in underglaze cobalt blue, the earliest blue and white in the world. Welcome, Hamimi. I'm glad you could join us for tonight's live stream. We are on the 51st Wonder of China, porcelain. The earliest Chinese porcelains were made in North China, but in the Song dynasty, Nilts in South China also begun to produce porcelain. One of the most important and successful southern types of porcelain from this period is known as Quangbai ware. This ware was first made at Jingdingjing and Jingxi province, which came to be one of the largest and most successful porcelain producing areas in China, if not the world. In the Yuan dynasty, court porcelains were commissioned from Jingdingjing, and this continued in the Ming, when part of Jingdingjing was designated for imperial production. Specifically commissioned wares were made for court and often had the name of the dynasty and the emperor from whom were made inscribed at the base. These inscriptions are today known as regime marks. In the 17th century, China experienced considerable political and economic turmoil, and this affected production of porcelain, including that of Jingdingjing, when court patronage of the factory ceased in 1608. Jingdingjing began producing porcelains for the export markets on a much grander scale than ever before. The imperial factory was heavily damaged in this period, but after rebuilding in the 1680s, official production resumed under the new Qing dynasty and the Kangxi emperors. Interest in technology had a great impact on developments in porcelain production at this time. One of the major developments was an opening of porcelain painting workshops in the palace itself, so that blank porcelains from Jingding were sent there for painting by specialized painters. This resulted in some of the most beautifully painted porcelains in Chinese history. Chinese porcelain is composed of two materials, qualinic clays and porcelain stone, which is also known as baoduzi or pentuzi. Both materials are found in South China, but very little porcelain stone is found in the north of the country. At the primary porcelain factory in China, Jingding, the porcelains were made with both materials in varying proportions, with the earlier examples tending to contain more porcelain stone than kaolin clays. Like most porcelains, Chinese porcelain is very high fired, historically up to 1320 degrees Celsius, and translucent. Some examples are so thin that they are described in Chinese as being bodiless. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are on the 51st Wonder of China, porcelain. Chinese porcelains from the north were generally fired with coal furnace fuels, which were abundant in the northern porcelain-producing areas. In the south, however, wood fuels were more common, and at times so much wood was consumed in the making of porcelain that entire areas were deforested as a result. Glaze materials were derived from the body materials plus glaze ash, and these were sometimes colored with mineral pigments which could be used to produce red and green glazes, blue glazes, yellow or black glaze colors. Alright. In terms of decoration, the wide range of techniques were used, with underglaze cobalt painting the most common. This was first developed in the late Tang dynasty, but continued to be used as a decorative technique in the Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties. Today, it is even used for contemporary Chinese studio porcelains. Underglaze blue was often combined with overglazed paintings using low-fired enamels. This composition first appeared in the 15th century when the technique was used to produce what are now known as dossier wares. These wares designers painted fine blue lines under glaze, and then first firing the outlines are filled with overglazed colors. Welcome 79C and everyone else who joined. I'm glad you can make it tonight for porcelain. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you can make it. We might not be able to finish this section, but we'll see what we can do. A similar version of this technique was introduced in the late 16th century, but it was not until the late 17th and early 18th centuries that new colors were added in the enamel flat of new techniques of painting were introduced. One of the most popular new colors was pink, which was used in combination with other colors as a plate known today as Familia Rose. Porcelain is used to make a wide range of objects in China, and these in turn are used equally wide range of functions. The most common porcelain product in China is tableware, from the dishes and bowls for eating cups and ewers for drinking. Such tablewares were made for both ordinary consumers and the Chinese court, and many of these court wares are highly admired. Today, as collected objects, other uses for porcelain in China include religious ritual, such as vessels or figurines for Buddhist practices, or altar wares for temples, which often have dated back dedications. Architectural tiles were made of porcelain in the Ming Dynasty, with the most famous example being the white tiles made for porcelain pagoda of the Mughal period in Nanjing. The earliest porcelain forms took their inspiration from foreign silver. Welcome to the live stream. We are looking at porcelain tonight. This practice continued into the Ming Dynasty, when some forms were copied from Near Eastern glass. Foreign styles were also adopted for Chinese textiles at this time, including motifs such as a dragon chasing a flaming pearl, which came to be associated with China, but which originated in Central Asia. A number of porcelain forms were inspired by Chinese metalwork, such as ancient bronzes of the type made in the Shang and Zhou periods. This kind of influence, when combined with designs inspired by ancient bronzes, is known as arcanism. The important stylistic development in Chinese art beginning in the Song Dynasty, when the court's collection of actual ancient bronzes were first catalogued. In the Qing Dynasty, forms were both simple and complex, with simple forms developed to be used as canvas for the more elaborate decoration. Welcome, Alyssa, to the live stream. We are reading about porcelain tonight. The more complex forms often featured a number of artist reforms, from ancient bronzes to Tang poetry and Song ink painting, often on one piece. A number of these artistic porcelains were used in court ritual. New forms were also developed for the use in calligraphy and porcelain lanterns, which benefited from the transparency of later Chinese porcelain. Chinese porcelain was first exported in the Tang Dynasty. Welcome to the live stream. Archaeologists have found Chinese porcelains of this date in Samarkand, Fustar, as well as East Africa in the Yuan Dynasty. Chinese porcelain, especially blue and white, was exported in great quantities to the Near East and Southeast Asia, as well as Japan, where plain white porcelains were preferred. In the Ming period, exports continued, with Europe entering the market in the 16th century. Welcome, Lori, Love You, and everyone else to the live stream. Glad you all could join us for the last couple minutes of porcelain. In fact, the first European country to specifically commission Chinese porcelain was Portugal. And in the succeeding century, hundreds of thousands of Chinese porcelains were exported to the Holland, England, Sweden, Germany, and other European countries. Welcome to the live stream. We have a couple more minutes. We'll go through the pictures tomorrow. Chinese porcelain provided a model for the white ceramic production in many of the countries where it was consumed. In Turkey, for example, local Lingning wares were made in close imitation of Chinese porcelains. In the 16th century and in the 17th century, Dutch Delftware copies of Chinese porcelains began to be made from tin-glazed earthenware. In Britain, welcome Zhang Yangdong to the live stream. Chinese porcelain inspired the production of bone china and the development of a popular blue willow pattern, which was thought to be a Chinese original by early consumers. Today, Chinese porcelains are being imitated by studio potters, who tend to copy the shapes and glazes of Song porcelains and larger symmetric and factories such as Wedgwood, who make Chinese-style sciences and tablewares in porcelain. So, that is all the time we have for tonight. I'm glad you could join us for painting, porcelain, and the opera. Stay tuned for our next live stream at 2 p.m. in which we will talk about and look at Japanese theater. So, welcome 15B. See you all at 2 p.m. To look at Japanese theater. Have a good day. Have a good lunch. And to the YouTube subscribers and watchers who later see this video, I bid you all a farewell until next time in a few hours. Stay tuned for more on Japanese theater and the 70 Wonders of China, which tomorrow we begin lacquer work.